everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cosmic Heartist. My name is Karina and I'm your host, and I am with Thea for another month ahead episode. I'm so excited about how consistently we've been doing this, Thea. I feel like we've done many different iterations of this through time. We started with our moon circles in 2021, and then we did practical cosmic magic until last year. And now we've been doing this, and I feel like it's such a great way to, even just for us, to get into the energy of the astrology coming up for the month. So yeah, before we go any further, how are you? How are you feeling into February? And what are three words that you have for January? We're recording this on the 28th of January. We have Mercury very close to Pluto, which is also very close to the sun
Mm-hmm.
in Aquarius.
Yeah. First off, yes, also celebrating with you how we've been consistently showing up for the month ahead. And I feel like the question landing in my body, how am I? I feel spacious. that's true for me right now. I feel spacious. January, three words. Wow. Um transformative, empowering, and really felt like a this is not just a word, but it's a statement. It's a cosmic kick in the butt. Is what I feel like. That's what January was for me. And what I'm sensing from a lot of people is they feel like January is like a year in the making. Like
Yeah.
it's so long. It's taking so long to end, and there's so many things coming up, and it's been such a roller coaster. I mean, naturally, right? Mars is retrograde as we start the year. How are you? And what's your three words for January?
I know I've been seeing how everyone's like, how many months are in this month? It's just been so long, and it's 3:33 as we're talking about this, and time is such a trip. And I don't know what I'm really inspired by right now is I have this summary of the Bhagavad Gita
Mm,
called Krishna's Call, and I haven't read it in a long time. I bought it when I went to India in June, and
mhm,
today I opened it and I was reminded by how limitless we are, actually, and how we are so connected to the infinite and how we are infinite. Because I opened it on a random page and just read it, and it was just magic. It said how astronomers believe that for every one grain of sand that there is on Earth, there are 10,000 stars.
mm,
Like, imagine just feeling that in your body, like how many stars actually exist, like how much actually exists outside of us. And here we are in this story. And sometimes we get really engulfed in our own story and really ingrained, like the story gets really ingrained in our mind. But I feel like when we offer ourselves opportunities to step out of that story by taking ourselves to a new place, taking ourselves to somewhere limitless, like Thea and I went to the beach last week, and that's a space that reminds you about the infinite nature of planet Earth, right? When you're looking at the sea and looking at the wide landscape. And I don't know why all of this is coming to me right now, but I'm just thinking we're in very Pisces territory. There's a lot going on in Pisces. Neptune and the North Node are right beside each other in Pisces, and it just feels like we're being reminded again and again that we are art and that everything around us is art and that we are the ones giving a story to everything that's happening. And if we step out of the story, everything gets to be different.
mm,
Um, so that's what I'm feeling into today. And I'm just feeling into the creativity and the magic, honestly, of being alive and just getting to experience this, like getting to do this with you. This is amazing. Three words for January. I want to say And I was laughing when you said that it felt like a cosmic kick in the butt because I feel like when we were recording in January, in the beginning, at the end of December, you said that, didn't you? That it's gonna be a cosmic kick in the butt, and it and it really did end up being one. I remember saying that it would be testing, and I stick with that. Like January has been testing. I think in the best ways because I mean, when we're tested, it's either we retreat or we are like, here, this is me. Like, this is me when I'm being tested, and we own up to our courage. So I want to say testing still, um, brave,
Mm.
and I want to say fun. January, I think it was a reminder to step back into fun. I think for a lot of last year, I was focusing on what is my joy and bringing that joy alive. But then somehow, with this rush of the new year and having to like have things done a certain way and whatnot, I lost that. And so it's the reminder that it's still about making life fun. And like every time we forget that, I feel like Pluto in Aquarius now is doing the job of being like, hey, stop taking it that seriously. While also being like, hey, what the heck are you doing?
Yep. Yep, the paradox. I feel like the paradox is also being so real. Like my a lot of people are sharing with me how with this spaciousness and this paradox, they feel more capable to appreciate how it's the both end.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's such an age of Aquarius thing to say. I feel like people are also they're being more open and welcoming to the shift in paradigm where it doesn't have to be black and white anymore because they're understanding the nuance to the human experience, that it can be both and it just doesn't have to be one or the other, and that's exciting. I feel like that's really exciting to witness.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to go through something with you really quickly, and I feel like you'd be able to do it really beautifully. And what I want to do is, since the nodes have shifted, the North Node and South Node have shifted from Aries and Libra into Pisces and Virgo. Do you think we could really quickly go through what it means for the North Node to be in each house? So if someone has the North Node and South Node moving through their first house and
Mm.
their seventh house.
Okay, so if North Node Pisces in the first house and Virgo is in the seventh house, I feel like it's re enchanting the way you relate with yourself and your relationships. I think I'll start there. So, I mean, I'll stop there so we can go
Yeah.
through.
And
But
eighth.
I'm curious. I'm curious with you. So maybe we can do like a banter thing where I share first seventh and then you share what's yours.
Okay, with Pisces, North Node in the first house and Virgo in the seventh house. I think it's being intentional about the relationships that we surround ourselves with because that's what will dictate how infinite we feel.
Mm. Beautiful, beautiful. Receiving that. For North Node Pisces in the second house and Virgo in the eighth, I feel like this is a beautiful opportunity for us to. I like re-enchant, so I feel like I'm going to use re-enchant for all these houses. It's re-enchant how we deal with money and our mindset around money, because there's so much magic in the mindset that we allow ourselves that there's actually infinite potential to what we can earn and what we can gain. So it's enchanting your money story, I feel like, for second eighth.
Yummy. I want to say it's feeling the discomfort in our body and feeling the contractions in our body as a sign of where we need to work on our self worth
Mm.
because our self worth dictates everything else. And when we're basing it on a body that doesn't feel at home on planet Earth, then a lot of things can go wrong. But then when we're feeling, yeah, but then when we're allowing ourselves to kind of sit in the discomfort and also noticing like how can we change the story we're telling ourselves that also allows us to magnetize so much more.
I love that. I love that. Like, I'm feeling that viscerally in my shoulders, on my shoulders. Thanks. Third house, ninth house, I feel like it's re-enchanting the way you explore communication and, well, exploring how you communicate with love and compassion. And I kind of want to dive deeper into this because what's coming up in the collective, or at least the groups that I've been in, is that they're realizing that not a lot of people actually have the capacity to communicate with love and empathy and compassion. And with Pisces, with Saturn still in Pisces, there's a lot of grief that everyone is experiencing. So people are being reminded of their shared humanity. So what is this muscle? Like empathy and compassion as a muscle that we can learn to explore as an unknown territory, but meet it with a sense of curiosity so that we can re-enchant our relationship with these words, is what's coming up for me.
I love that. And I want to just like follow that up with seeing the divine in every conversation or witnessing every conversation as a learning opportunity, because actually, there's this song, I think it's by the script called No Man is an Island. But what it's making me think of is actually every person is their own island and every person has their own world that they rule. Like we all rule our own worlds, we all rule our own lives. So what if we went into every conversation thinking, what can I learn from this about the nature of life, about um, a different culture, about like just like expanding and opening our minds to be like, okay, maybe I know how I think about that, but I don't know how this person in their life's rule thinks about that. So yeah, just noticing and witnessing the divine, and maybe even noticing where we can inject a little bit more um, divinity in our own lives by connecting deeper with different parts of the earth.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for that perspective.
Thank you.
Fourth,
Fourth and 10th.
fourth and 10th, I feel like
So
really
Pisces in the fourth and Virgo in the 10th.
it's re-enchanting the way you show up in service to your community. I mean, to your families and to your work. And where are you over serving? And where are you also needing to resource and in-source for yourself? Is what's coming up for me.
Hmm. Um, for this, what's coming up for me is how can we nurture and mother ourselves in a way that we allow ourselves that it's okay to be so many things at once, because I feel like when we were mothered and we were brought up, we were taught, no, you need to know where you want to go, you need to know what you want to do, you need to know what you want to major in. But
Mm,
now, how can we mother ourselves in a way that everything is actually infinite? We can do everything, we can blur all lines and
mm,
allow that to be our like the legacy that we're sharing with the rest of the world, for the rest of the world to also realize that it doesn't need to be so pragmatic, it doesn't need to be so, yes, just so practical and analytical all the time. It can be, the lines can be blurred. In fact, it's even more beautiful when when the lines are blurred, so that we can witness like and tread through uncharted territory. Because that's what we see in the fourth house, right? Like the darkest part of the night. And it takes so much to be in those trenches. So, like, owning up to that mother within us to be like, oh, I got you, girl.
I love that. And I love how you touched up on legacy because part of this North Node movement in Pisces and Neptune will be moving into Aries. We are creating a new set of legacy, a new set of stories. Not and we are the lucky generation to actually start because we have the tools and we have the capacity to re-enchant our lives and our money stories and our wounds and our trauma stories. We're healing the seven generations before and we're creating a new legacy and a new paradigm for the generations after. So I love that. Fifth and 11th, it's re-enchanting your joy and just again connecting with the infinite possibility when you allow yourself to step into flow and the fullness of your art. It's serving you and it's serving your joy, but it's also serving the world and it's also serving the community. So please remember your magic.
For me, it's dare to listen to your instincts.
Mm.
Because listening to your instincts will not only make you feel better, not only make you feel creative, but will also allow you to magnetize the people that are meant to be around you. They'll help you magnetize your tribe. And having a tribe that sees you and celebrates your infiniteness, I mean, nothing compares, right? A lot of times, just to see something in ourselves, we just need someone else to reinstate that they see that too. Imagine when you have a whole tribe of people like cheering you on, being like, you got this. That's magic. So, like, and it all starts with sometimes listening to that instinctual voice. And more often than not, I feel like with the fifth house, it involves moving our body and laziness. Oh my God, laziness is loud. I'll be like, no, you're just sit, don't do it. Just like ideate and just sit in your mind. And it's easy to do that and it's fun to do that. But with Mars and Cancer, I just want to reinstate how important it is to move our bodies because I feel like a lot of things get stuck there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Emotional metabolism, right? I feel like I
Ooh,
don't know if we talked
love
about
that word.
this was something that but it is a big term. It's a big learning for Mars and Cancer. How do we metabolize our energy and we allowing it to move through our bodies and not just let it be stuck there as we're moving through so much karma. I mean, Pisces North Node also has a lot to do with dissolving so many like just it's ending so many cycles and it's ending so many things and it's also the year of the snake, so fucking move your body definitely. um that leaves us to sixth and 12th house. It's re-enchanting the way you resource with source and magic every day. And I feel like it's a beautiful progression from this fifth and 11th house story where we're incorporating every day, we're incorporating all our actions and infusing it with a sense of magic because life is magic. I mean, I feel like the biggest illusion and lie that we were taught and we were led to believe is that number one, we are separate, and then number two is that magic isn't real. I mean, come on, we are floating in space in a blue rock that's just so magnificent. How can we even doubt that magic is alive? So, God, infuse your everything every day with magic.
Something I like to say about myself is I like to add magic to the mundane. And this is happening between my sixth and 12th houses. And I think it's a big question of how can we live our life as a moving prayer? We've said this a lot. We've talked about this a lot in many different episodes and all our different iterations. And also, something else I want to say is energy speaks louder than words. And that is going to be loud, I think, if you have this sixth and 12th um, axis. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to add for fifth and 11th that everyone and everything is art.
Yeah.
Act that way. Like, act like everything is art. Because it's when we're doing that with the fifth and 11th, that in the sixth and 12th, we're like, ooh, this is all magic. This is all beauty. Like, this is all divine. Okay, cool. Thank you for running through that with me. We went really quickly through houses 1 to 12. Um, and we didn't continue because it's like we kind of pulled in both the sides, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, were you saying something?
I said, like, I felt like there were so many, cat posters, like, I can grab so many cat posters from everything that you said, so that was yummy.
Yeah, so if you are feeling the shift and you've been hearing about the nodes having shifted and you're like, I have no idea what that means for me, pull up your chart, go on astro.com. It's the easiest. All you need is your time, date, place of birth, put it in there, look at where the nodes are. You can even search on Google what do the nodes look like on a chart. And it's like this. I'll draw it for you if you're watching it on YouTube. But find out which house it is in for you, and that will make sense for you for the next year and a half, because this is a year and a half um, transit. Okay, Thea, let's go into February. I am excited. The first thing that I want to talk to you about is happening on Sunday. That is the 2nd of February, and that is Venus conjunct Neptune.
Mm,
Yum, that feels really nice. How
yum.
does it feel?
I feel like we've talked a lot of magic and art as we went through the houses and signs. So allow me to shift it in a more global, like practical, grounded way, as simple as how do we find common ground? Because Pisces teaches us as it dissolves everything, we can find common ground easier. How do we find and build common ground with everything? And how do we meet life and the spaces that we have from that place? And I feel like commonality and intersectionalities with everything and everyone is so important as we progress this year. And this conjunction, right? Every conjunction is a seed point. So I feel it's so beautiful that Venus and Neptune are seeding this new cycle in Pisces where they're both just so they're so at home. I mean, Neptune is at home in Pisces, it rules Pisces, and Venus is exalted in Pisces. So, if we can remember that we're seeding dreams of commonality from this space, I feel like it's going to change how we relate compassionately and empathically with the world, with all the space that we move and navigate in as the decade progresses. And we did say that this year is a dynamic year. We don't know what's going to happen by May or June. And we feel like it's just a slow start of the year, this January and February. But I feel like this is such a gift. This is such a magical gift for us to really attune to, like, just attune to all this magic and remember that, like you said, everything is divine. So if we see everything as divine, we will always see common ground and find common ground. And I feel like that's a big tip as we set the foundation for this year and up until 2036. Mm.
Love that you brought in compassion and empathy, because I feel like that's what it is. It's an invitation to begin with being compassionate and having empathy for ourselves, and noticing how much we are doing, and instead of talking down on ourselves, maybe celebrating ourselves. And in the process of that, we kind of start empathizing more with other people and having more compassion for other people. And this day is a great day to kind of bring it back within yourself if you feel like you've lost it. I mean, this last month was absolutely crazy. There were lots of places where we could have lost that relationship that we have with ourselves. So I feel like this day, like you said, it's a great seeding point of like, I'm devoting myself to you again. Like,
Mm,
I'm devoting myself to me again. Um, what does that mean? I think a practical tip would be, what does that mean? What does it look like to devote yourself to
mm,
yourself? Or what
mm,
does it look like to devote yourself to your joy? Or what does it look like to devote yourself to fun? Maybe this is a great day to think about, what are you devoted to?
mm,
It could be that simple. Um, and so that, like, I think beautifully sets the tone for the entire month. And I want to say before we go a little bit further that This is a big month just because I feel like it's a transition month.
Mm,
Because next month we have an eclipse, and eclipse months are always like really big. So I just want to say, like you were saying, like we've been talking about how January is feeling slow, and maybe February will feel slow. But just putting this out there that don't worry, March is an eclipse month. Um,
yep.
so if you are feeling like it's slow, like embrace the slowness. This is the point where we're like, yes, thank you for this oozy goodness. Okay, February 4, we have something happening with Venus again. Venus is conjunct North Node in Pisces, and Venus is opposing the South Node in Virgo. And after this, Venus moves into Aries, and on the same day, so this is a big day in the astrology, on the same day, which is the 4th Philippine time, Jupiter stations direct in Gemini. So we have water, earth, fire, and air all at play in one day.
Mm.
How does this day feel for you?
What's coming up for me as we've already been set up by that seed point? I mean, these energies are already so close together beginning now. So, as we always, like what we always say when we give, these months ahead, they layer into each other. Like they don't happen independent of each other. So when we say or when we speak of a particular transit, it can go for like it sets up it builds layers upon layers upon layers. So with that preface out there, what's coming up for me is with Jupiter stationing direct, I feel like this is louder. Even with Neptune in the final decan, all these guys are in the final decan of Pisces. And when I say decan, it's on the final degrees of Pisces. So this is where all the energies are compressing because it's wrapping the Pisces mystery school up. I also want to share that Venus with Neptune and the North Node is such a beautiful Venus because in Venus alchemy, this is when Venus is about to reach the highest gate or the crown chakra gate. And I feel like an invitation that's coming up for me on this day is just allowing yourself to open up to the possibilities instead of like going in your mind and over analyzing the situation. And it doesn't have to be perfect, you just have to believe that it's possible and do the necessary steps that you have to do every day. Magic is just gonna do its thing, because when we over control to fit a certain mold or to perfect a particular structure of how we want an outcome to be, we're not really leaving room for magic to do its thing. So just allow yourself to also review what was happening for you the past 6 months while Jupiter was retrograde. Like what new belief systems were um did you were you able to explore? What limiting beliefs did you unpack for yourself? Was there any polarity that you were met with? Like what kind of paradox are you allowing spaciousness for? I feel like some questions as Jupiter stations direct, and then blending that all together, just allow all those learnings to expand your capacity to hold your magic, because it's an infinite universe, but our minds don't believe that. So how can we just switch? I mean, not saying that we turn off this reality bubble. It's how do we find the balance again of the both end where we can live the magic every day, but also do the practical steps to allow magic to flow.
I love how you said leave space for magic because it made me think about how I mean, I went to a Catholic school, and during prom, they said leave space for Jesus Christ when you're dancing in between. And so it's like that for magic. Leave space for magic whenever you're dancing with life. Like allow that room to be like, oh, I don't have 100% plan of what I'm gonna do because something may surprise me. And I feel like when we have that thinking of like something may surprise me, something definitely will surprise us. And we have like all of a sudden we are surrounded by surprises. Okay, I think this is a very interesting day because I feel like it can be very loud
Mm,
if we're not intentional with how we go about our day. Just
mm,
because Jupiter is loud and Jupiter is the most expansive planet, and we have Venus playing from water to fire. Um, but I think just everything that you said, and I think leaving space for magic just allows so much more breathing room.
yeah.
And also, I think this is a great day to have conversations with
The universe.
the universe and with people. I don't think it's the best day to have conversations with people that you know have super strong opposing opinions to your own, just because it may make it flare up a little bit more. But I think it's a great day to have conversations with people who you feel like are on the same wavelength or the same energetic wave as you are on, because that can allow a lot more to um I don't even know, the words are escaping me right now, but I think that will allow so much more propelling the energy of propelling forward. Also, before we go any further, I am inviting Mercury to join our conversation. And I am also inviting Mars, because when we don't invite Mercury, the words escape us. So you're welcome, Mercury. And Thea, the next aspect I want to talk about actually involves Mercury. It is on the 9th of February, Sun conjunct Mercury. So it's Mercury Kazemi in Aquarius. What does a
Wow.
Kazemi mean? Can you please share with everybody, and how can they harness this magic?
So, Kazemi in Latin, it just means in the heart of it. So, this is when a planet is infused by the rays of the sun, and vice versa. The rays of the sun is infused by the energy of this planet. So, we have direct source, we have direct access to all the beautiful energies of this planet. And since we're talking about Mercury, goodness gracious, frequency on fleek. We can get amazing downloads when we open ourselves up. And I feel like all these, the transits before, is already opening ourselves up if we allow that space for magic, when we allow our crowns to open. It's a beautiful setup for this Mercury Kazemi, and it's just allowing your minds to be open to the possibilities. And when I say possibilities, it's also exploring possibilities, not just for yourself, but for the collective. We're opening up a new paradigm. I think we've been talking about this. There's so many revolutionary, innovative energies, which is Aquarius. It's the first time in 248 years that the sun met with Pluto. Mercury is about to meet with Pluto as we're having this conversation. So there's so many seed points that really, seed the age of Aquarius. And if you're listening to us and you've been listening to us for a while, you have an idea what you want the age of Aquarius to look like. So, can you clarify and define with great detail what the age of Aquarius means for you and what you can actually do to contribute to this garden that, like the seed that you are planting? And I want to leave that I want to leave that open. Like, what does it even mean? Regardless of what Aquarius means, like all these bunch of words, like feel into your body. How do you want the next generation to feel and look like for you? And what can you do to contribute to that? Reflect, journal, do all the things.
Yeah, so practical tips for that day is that, like, reflect, journal, and also I want to ask, like, what revolution is starting inside of you? That's a
Oh,
great question to ask yourself with the sun conjunct Mercury, because I mean, there are a lot of external revolutions that we are witnessing and we are being a part of, but at a certain point, there comes a voice from inside of us that is just undeniable, and it repeats itself again and again and again and again until we take action. This is a great day to become aware of what is that voice that's repeating itself in the name of revolution, and what is the action that you're going to take based on this voice. This is a great day, not only to journal about what it is, but to also take that first step.
Mm.
Because the week before, we had that seed point between Venus and Neptune. And then exactly 1 week after, we have the seed point between the Sun and Mercury.
Mm.
And Mercury, right? Mercury gives us access to the way we express ourselves, to our thoughts, to communication. We like completely freak out when Mercury is in retrograde. This day, Mercury is super, super charged. This is the complete opposite of Mercury retrograde. So what are you going to do now? Like if you're complaining when Mercury is in retrograde, think about like what are you actually complaining about? Because that's exactly what you do on this day. Like you do the complete opposite of why you are complaining. Because if you're complaining when Mercury is retrograde, it's because you can't do something, right? It's because you don't have access to something that you actually want to do. So whatever that thing is, do it this day. Okay, and then moving into the 12th. On the 12th, we have the full moon in Leo at 24 degrees and 5 minutes. And it is at 9:53 p.m. Philippine time. I love this axis, and it's because it's where I have my sun and where I have Saturn. How do you feel about the full moon in Leo, and what is its invitation while we're sitting here in Aquarius season with Pluto and Aquarius with these brand new energies, but also the energy of ending and closing and the polarity being so loud? What is the
Yeah.
best way to go about this full moon?
Allow your light to shine fully on and freaking own your light. I'm saying this because all the inner planets retrograde in Leo. Um, the Venus cycle, like the Venus retrograde cycle that started way early April last year, was seated in Leo. This Mars retrograde cycle was seated in Leo. We had a Mercury cycle that was seated in Leo, and now Mercury is Cazimi in Aquarius, opposite that. So we've been getting whooped lessons from Leo's mystery school. And that's all about, shining your radiant love light, being courageous, coming from the heart. And I mean, of course, there's a shadow side of Leo as prideful and wanting to take center stage. Fine, all that things. Can we take inspiration from Wicked? Just being in the heart of our weird and shining from that place, just defying gravity from that place, owning the radiance that we are, and allowing our fears to teach us where we've actually been blocking our own light, and just embrace those fears, because oftentimes those fears are just protecting us from shining that light, because that light can be super freaking bright and we don't know because we don't have spectacles. And it's an invitation to take off those spectacles. We don't need those spectacles because everybody needs our radiant love light right now, especially as we're going through all this polarity, all the shit that's coming up in the world. It's liquid gold, you guys. Like, everything that's rising is inviting us to rise up and meet it with, like, from the heart space, from our art, through our light, by transmuting the dark, being in the dark, embracing the dark, and embracing the fears. So there's, like, I can go 30 minutes just talking about this full moon, just because it's wrapping up and culminating so many personal planet retrograde cycles. A practical tip for this day: be in front of fire and dance in front of it, or just bask in this red light, like bask in the energy of fire and what this energy invokes from you. Because the alchemical representation of Leo is the flame, the fire. It's not the spark, it's not the smoke, it's the actual flame. So how might you embody the energy of fire this day? And and just use it to alchemize. Burn, like write a letter to yourself, like, I apologize, or I'm sorry for the many ways where I misunderstood that my power is this. Burn it, transmute it, and freaking rise. Rise in, rise up, lean in, shine.
I love this revolution that I've been seeing on the internet of how we are art and
Mm.
everything is art and everyone is art. And I'm so happy that we're like more of us are getting on this train. We are realizing that we're artists, like we are freaking artists, and more people are talking about it, and more people are seeing it, and more people are sharing the art that is their life. And it's so yummy. Like, I think about how stuck I am on Instagram sometimes, and it's not because I'm so curious about people and so curious about their lives, but it's like it's
There's
so
so much
yummy to
beautiful
witness.
content.
Yes, there's so much beautiful content. There's people completely living their lives so authentically, so truly, sharing their art, sharing their magic. Like, one of my favorite things to watch is do you know Devon Rodriguez?
Yes.
He paints and draws people in the subway, in the New York subway station, or like around New York. And I love watching those. And before I know it, I've been on Instagram for 2 hours, and I'm like beating myself up about it. But I feel like actually there's nothing wrong with that, because when you live in a city and you're sitting in an apartment and you feel like you want access to more people's stories, what is wrong with sitting on Instagram, watching someone with incredible talent paint these people and listen to these people's stories? They're like listening to mini podcast episodes, right? What is this person's story? What is their life like? And listening to these stories, I think, gives us so much more perspective about life, about culture, about the way different people live their lives. And I think what that does is it gives us a permission slip to live however we want to, like however we want to. We are living under this belief of this is how we're meant to be, or this is what's right, or this is what's wrong, and this is what everybody's doing, and this is what people will love me for, and this is what people won't love me for. But at the end of the day, when we are exposed to so much, what we end up realizing is I can do whatever the heck I want, and it's art. Whatever comes out of me is art. If it's a podcast episode, it's art. If I'm writing something, it's art. If it's a message, it's art. Art is not anymore just putting a paintbrush to paper or
Mm.
coloring or oil pastel. No, like living life, like being present, like conversations and showing up. That's all art. And I think it's so cool that we're starting to kind of realize that. And that to me is what this full moon in Leo is bringing, this reminder that we are all art. It is all for the sake of fun. Before we started recording this, I was telling Thea about how I had like this day the other day where I met grief so deeply. And the result of meeting that grief was, if the thing that I'm worrying so deeply isn't a matter of life and death, then I'm meant to look at it with fun, like with the lens of fun. It's really not that serious.
Mm.
Nothing is that serious, of course, until it's like serious things, right? And I'm not in any way discrediting all the shit going on in the world right now, because I know there's shit. Um, and also, there is also the alchemy of it. There is also, and if you are going through the shit, I'm sitting with you in the shit. Okay, don't feel like you need to ignore the shit that you're going through and be like, no, I need to
Oh,
see the beauty in it. No, even the shit is art, and I know that feels like shit to hear. Um, but it is, you guys, and the alchemy, like the alchemy that we are capable of. And I'm thinking a lot about Scorpio, because I'm thinking about how we have the sun and we have Pluto in Aquarius. And this time we also have Mercury in Aquarius. And then we have the moon is in Leo. And then we have Uranus is still in Taurus. And so the release point is in Scorpio. And so I'm really thinking about this alchemy that lives in Scorpio, and it's not easy alchemy. Like, it's not easy. It's Scorpio. It's painful. It's rough. It's messy. It's like mucky. But when we see the courage that we stepped into to step into that muck, I feel like we're proving to ourselves that we're capable of anything at all. And I think if there is a year that we need to prove to ourselves that we are capable of anything at all, it's this year. It's now because it's just, we're capable. We're capable of like freaking recording this video and putting it on the internet, and forever whoever wants to listen to it gets to listen to it. Like it's actually that simple. If we make it simple, it's simple. If we make it complicated, it's complicated. I feel like that is this whole podcast episode in a nutshell. February 14, Valentine's Day. Mercury moves into Pisces.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ah, compassion, compassionate inquiry. That's what's coming up for me. We have a beautiful season. We just had Akazimi in beautiful Aquarius. And that can be shaky, rebellious energy. But we talked about the arts of our charts and the art that we are, the artists that we all are. How can we use this? Is such a beautiful Mercury um energy to infuse ourselves into, because we can have like that direct um the direct portal to inspiration, to muse, to creativity. So goodness, if journaling is your jam, please journal. And the journal prompts that I feel called to share are mostly around compassionate self inquiry, just to connect it with the Mercury Kazimi that I shared. What is your contribution to the revolution, or what is your contribution to the age of Aquarius? And with the North Node and Pisces and all these endings and all these sheddings and all this muck and all this shit that we've been talking about, there's still a lot of healing to do. And how might we self-inquire, like, where where am I still allowing my wounds to bleed out into other people, and how might I meet myself with more compassion and more openness and more grace, so that instead of wounds it's actually transmuted into beautiful works of art. And there's so many ways that you can come out of this exercise more open and more fluid, to meet other people deeper, connect with other people in a deeper way, because it, as we expand our our awareness, we shine the light of awareness around how our wounds are still projecting onto other people, we're allowing its space to flow and dissolve its hold on us. And so we have a 22 days, give or take, before Mercury stations retrograde, to reflect and work with the energy before it stations retrograde, so when it stations retrograde we're not caught off guard, is what I'm called to share.
Is Mercury retrograding in Pisces?
Aries. It's Mercury
Aries
retrograding in Aries, but I feel like it's stepping back.
into Pisces.
Pisces. So yes, it is stepping back.
Okay. And in the beginning of February, we have Venus moving into Aries, but in the beginning of March, we have Venus stationing retrograde, and Venus will also retrograde into Pisces, right?
Correct. It
Okay.
was water and fire.
So just pointing that out because I feel like the energetics will definitely come to play. And based on everything that you've said, the thing that I want to follow it up with is I think that Mercury in Pisces is a great time to get in right relationship with our energy.
Mm.
Because like I said with the earlier one, like energy speaks louder than words. Frequency speaks louder than words. And with Mercury in Pisces, I think that we are able to be so telepathic. We are able to feel so infinite. We are able to become boundless. Um, but what are the energetic charge? What is the energetic charge we have with all of these different things? With limitlessness, like what do we think about limits? What do we think about limitlessness? What have we been taught about limits? How are we holding ourselves back? What does our energy feel like when we're just with ourselves? What does our
Mm.
energy feel like when we are with other people? How are we able to communicate when we're with ourselves? How are we able to communicate when we're with other people? I think these are great questions to be asking while Mercury is in Pisces, just to become a little bit more aware of the energy that we're putting out, because really it's all about intentionality and it's all about energy, and the energy that we give is always the energy that we receive. So if we're not happy with the energy that we're receiving, this is a great time to kind of sit with it and question, like, what is the energy that we are putting out? What is the intentionality with everything that we are coming up with? And then I think this is just further amplified when the sun moves into Pisces on the 18th of the month. That just amplifies this energy of, I like to think of Aquarius as frequency and Pisces as vibes. So it's like going from the electric to going to the energetic. Um, so where everything is like in the mind and so much excitement and so many unique ideas and so much art and so much revolution, all of a sudden it's like dropping deeper in. It's like, okay, we saw all that, we saw the possibility, we saw everything that we're capable of, but what does it mean if we do that? What does it mean for our energy? How does it change our relationship with ourselves? How does it change our relationship with the word spirituality? How are we, again, like coming back to that question that you ask yourself on the 2nd of February, what are you devoted to? What is your devotion in this life? And really rooting in the on the 18th, especially, and maybe making that your intention for Pisces season. What are some practical tips also that you have? First of all, what do you think about the sun in Pisces? And then also, what are some practical tips you have to connect with our divinity while the sun is in Pisces?
First off, the moon is going to be in Scorpio when the sun enters Pisces, and where the moon is, that paints a picture what the emotional tone of the season is going to be. So there's that. We know that there's transformation. We know that there's going to be a lot of water because this moon is in a trine to Mars retrograde in Cancer. So practical tips can be really get in touch with your emotions, but not allow yourselves to drown in them. Rather, allow it to motivate you to in-source safety. Now, what do I mean when I say in-source safety? Define for yourself what safety means. What, I mean, we have questions like what devotion means. So, how might you be devoted to your own safety first? Because there's so much water, there can be just so much enmeshment and just so much mucking around in the collective, like energy is rising up and it can be emotionally charged. So how might we understand what safety means for us, define that, clarify that? And so whenever we get in touch with our emotions, we can do it from a space of witnessing. Like when we talk about Pisces, there's a lot of spaciousness because there's so much trust and surrender and faith that we are being taught, that we can connect to a higher power. And I feel like for me, especially one of the ways that I can connect to a higher power with someone with very strong Neptune, Pisces energetics, I have so much, like, I have a very strong Neptune complex in my chart. It's allowing my emotions to guide me, sort of like this intuitive muscle, guide me towards envisioning a more um heart open way of meeting the world, just because I have so much emotion and empathy for everything. But because of that, it also allows me to understand where do I end and where do others begin, because with so much water we can get lost. We can get lost in it. And this is where faith, this is where spirituality, this is where art and your devotion to your daily practice, I mean, Virgo South Node, what is your daily practice where even for just 5 minutes you can connect to yourself and connect to a divinity, however you define divinity, whatever spirituality means, God, universe, whoever it is, deity, higher power that you can connect with and that resonates with you, clarify and define that for yourself and just build a devotional practice around that. Like just 5 minutes and commit to it consistently. That's going to change. That's just going to change everything. And this is a 40-year-old sharing experience, okay? With someone with very strong Neptune. Commit to a practice, even for just 5 minutes, and connect to your source and in source safety for yourself.
Mhm. I had something to say and then it flew away.
Very Pisces.
So, very Pisces. Oh, I remember what I was thinking of is energetic hygiene.
Mm,
This is a great month to pay attention to your energetic hygiene. Notice, like Thea said, like where do I end and where do others begin? And when you're in your own space, how
mm,
do you clean the energy that's sticking onto you? Is it Reiki? Is it breath work? Is it lighting incense? Is it using water, taking a bath, taking a shower? Is it standing out in the open air and letting the wind just like fly through you? Like what is it? Just whatever it is. This is a great month to remember that you have these tools of spiritual or energetic hygiene, just to make sure that you're not carrying much more than you need to be carrying, because Pisces is naturally empathetic, it is naturally porous. So even though you are not a Pisces, during Pisces season you may be feeling quite Piscean. So
mm.
when you are feeling a little bit heavy, a little bit more emotional than you feel you're capable of feeling, come back to those emotional hygiene practices. Okay, we don't have much more. Actually, it seems like we have much more, but it's all condensed into 1 week. But let's first go to the 23rd, which is where we have Neptune conjunct the North Node in Pisces. Exact conjunction because throughout the whole month they're so close to each other, kind of just dancing with each other. And the way they just made that move, I was thinking about jellyfish. So it's kind of like they're just bouncing along with each other. And Neptune is opposite the South Node in Virgo. Wow. As I say that, I think what's coming to me is really just become aware of the disillusions that you are allowing yourself to buy into, because it's all a story, and the news is a story and media is a story. And when the story is hard for your tummy to digest, know that it's also hard for your mind and for your soul and your spirit to digest. So, how can you not subject yourself to dealing with things that are too hard for your system to digest? And you guys, I know this is easier said than done, because I'm also thinking about like, why do we eat things, or why do I eat things that I know my tummy can't handle, right? I love chips and chocolate and cheese and ice cream, but I know that I'm like borderline lactose intolerant and I can't really stomach a lot of these things. Um, but I still eat them because I guess maybe it's because I want to feel fully alive. I don't know. But also just noticing like where are the places in our lives? Me, for example, this is a place that I'm self-sabotaging, but I think this is a great day to also notice where are we self-sabotaging through the things that we are putting in our way, and how can we instead divert, like reroute, create a detour for ourselves where instead of choosing self-sabotage, we're choosing a side that is actually allowing us to expand, to go deeper into the infinite, to go deeper into our potential and to our capability. Because Neptune, like we actually are capable of so much when we're not buying into a story that we were told. How
I
does
like
this day feel for you?
I like that, especially as Mars is Mercury is moving close to Saturn. And after this conjunction of the North Node with Neptune, it's gonna meet with Saturn. So like being aware of these stories is such a beautiful gift for you to give yourself, because once it meets with Saturn, then we can we can create new structures, right? First we're going to dissolve the structures that these stories have built for us, but then it's going to give us an opportunity to rebuild new structures. So it's I think it's really still important that we get a handle on that energetic spiritual hygiene that we were talking about, what divinity means for you, because with the North Node, this is something collective. And so if you're someone who's very into, if you're someone that if you resonate with the term highly spiritual, which is what this podcast or what this podcast used to be, was highly spiritual, you're gonna find that the world is more open to it now. And it's a collective evolutionary journey where everyone is understanding how to incorporate more spirituality into their lives. So how might you flow into this energy more consciously as you step up as being a spiritual leader? Okay, there's a lot of ego when I say spiritual leader, but let me just clarify. When I mean spiritual leader, is you are someone who is standing in integrity. Saturn is still in Pisces, with your beliefs and your relationship with divinity, just because you allow yourself to have that practice. And I feel like there's a bias from my end, and I just want to orient you towards where I'm seeing this. This is from the lens of someone who has built sadhana, and sadhana just means doing something right. And it's a daily devotional practice that you cultivate throughout the years, so that no matter the waves of spirituality out there, or the fads, or the whatever, like how different associations and groups package what spirituality means, whether it's a lifestyle that they sell or a lifestyle that they teach, you can stand in integrity and proper discernment, because you know that being human is spiritual, because we are spiritual beings first, having a human experience. And it's not just a lifestyle, it's a way of life, it's a being. And it's something that we remember and step fully into. It's not something that we have to buy into. Um, so yeah, just also because Neptune has a lot to do with media, like you said, and social media and news and all these things that we can get bombarded with if you want to be spiritual, do this and this and this and this. But invitation, discern, what does it mean for you, define it for you, and just stand in integrity with that.
I want to just bring back the word that you said, discern, because it feels like with the South Node and North Node and mutable signs, um, discernment is a gift
Mhm.
that we really shouldn't take for granted. And that's it. That's all I want to highlight there. That was all really beautiful. Let's move into Moon Day, the 24th rather of February, where we have Mars stationing direct at 17 degrees of Cancer. Thank God.
Opposite the moon, nonetheless. But of course.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we have Mars stationing direct, the planet that is responsible for our drive, for motivation, for action, for passion, for like this forward moving energy, which has been kind of appearing to move backward for a while now. It is stationing direct. The energy is going to start moving forward again. It might take a little bit of time. Thea likes to say that when Mercury when Mercury stations direct, it hasn't yet had its cosmic coffee or its cosmic Gatorade. So it's kind of that way, right, with Mars as well. Like Mars hasn't had a Red Bull yet. Still kind of woozy, still like, ooh, I'm in Cancer. What am I doing in water territory when I'm fire? So I remember when we were talking about this, I don't know, a couple of months ago, you said that you feel like that fizzle sound. That's kind of the sound that I'm feeling on the 24th. Mars is like, oof. I'm in water again. Because it's like while Mars was moving retrograde, it was like, "Oh, okay, okay, okay. I'm just gonna keep moving, just gonna keep moving. I don't care, I don't care, still moving." Now it's like, oh, about to be awake and like, wait, I've been moving doing what? Which I love it because it allows us a third time, the third time's the charm, right? It allows us a third time to move through all of these degrees that we've already moved through. This is 17 onwards of Cancer. So notice, where is 7 degrees of Cancer, 17 degrees of Cancer in your chart? And what is this activating in your chart? I know I think my sun is at 17 or 18 degrees. So this is what is that aspect when they're in the sign beside each other?
In conjunction.
In conjunct. So mine is in conjunct. So have a look at yours and you'll have a better idea of what this is doing with your signs. Anyway, how does it feel for you that Mars is finally stationing direct again as we enter the new year? It was retrograde. Imagine that. We entered a new year and everyone's like, woohoo, resolutions, new year, new energy. And here we are like, but Mars, Mars is not even moving forward. How do you feel?
Okay, first off, I'm looking at the chart of this day. Mars is, Moon is opposite Mars. Mars is trine Vesta in Scorpio. It's also in a grand trine, water with Mercury in Pisces, and all these guys are forming a kite with each other. So there's a lot of direction of these energies towards Mars in Cancer, and this is still Mars in fall. So Mars is not a strong Mars, and Mars is also still out of bounds. So this is a rebellious Mars. We still have a lot of that Aquarian energy that we're building up to. So where do you find yourself rebelling against emotional patterns that you don't know how to move around? And like I said, like Karina said, Mars still hasn't taken its cosmic coffee. So when you feel like during this day, the days leading to it, and the days after it, if you feel like a jolt of energy or some sense of clarity around the direction that you're supposed to take on a matter, a relationship, a project, a job, anything that requires will, stamina, action, will you allow yourself to step back and reassess what happened the past 4, 7 months? Can you gather all the information so that you come up with a better strategy how to move forward instead of moving forward from impulse or reactivity? Moon is in Capricorn, so there's a lot of there's strategy that you can do, there's assessment, there's willpower, there's contraction, there's a sense of limitation that we can meet, but there's water energy that allows us to move through it with graceful grit. Is that even possible to have grit and be graceful? Hell yeah, everything is possible. How might that show up for you? Just strategize better instead of reacting impulsively, is my invitation for this day. How about you? What's coming up?
I like that word strategize because it capitalizes. I hate using that word now, but it capitalizes on the South Node in Virgo, right? It's like we have the gift to analyze, we have the gift to strategize. Um, because the South Node is Virgo, there might be a tendency to overdo it. So the invitation is analyze and plan and look at the next couple of months and what you want to do with the months. But like we said earlier, leave space for magic, leave space for Jesus, like leave space for the universe, whatever, leave space for Krishna, whoever you want to leave space for, leave some space because I think with all of this water, we really have the ability to be pleasantly surprised about the magic that is capable of coming our way, especially when we're doing the work, when we're facing our emotions, when we're not overdoing it with our emotions, when we are creating homes for our emotions, when we are creating, safe spaces for ourselves, when we're mothering ourselves, when we're taking care of ourselves the way we take care of our best friends, like all of these, the universe rewards us for it. God rewards us for it. The divinity within us rewards us for it. So maybe maybe this is also a great day to become aware of what are the practices that have gotten you through the last couple of months, because it's been tough emotionally, and you had to find some ways to deal with the emotions that were coming up. So maybe this is a great day to compile, like, what are those ways that you've learned to deal with emotions? I'm thinking about how I think it was last month, you talked about emotional maturity, and it's a return of that emotional maturity. How emotionally mature are you? And also, this episode, you said emotional metabolism. Great time to get our bodies moving again. Even though Mars is already direct. Actually, in fact, if we move our bodies while Mars is direct rather than Mars is in retrograde, we may have so much more access to our power, to our magic. And after moving our bodies, like, I'm just thinking, I'm going to share with you the what is it? The analogy that's coming into my head so you can understand where I'm coming from. I'm thinking of a sponge, that, like, a sponge, it's like dipped in water. The dipping in water is our workouts. We're like dipping ourselves in our own energy. We're working out, we're moving our bodies. Once we're done, I think of just bringing it out. And so the water, like this, like sweat literally comes out of us. We go shower, and then it's like the wringing out. And as we're wringing out, that water that drips is like this, these intuitive hits that have been living inside our bodies in different crevices, and they haven't had access because we've just been so stuck. But now that we've moved our body, all of a sudden everything can flow again. And the reason I'm talking so much about this is because today I worked out after a week. I've been doing every Tuesday workouts. But today I worked out after a week, and this, like, I feel the juice is flowing as compared to the days when I'm completely stagnant or when I only walk. And then there's stuff that I want to say, but it's like living deep within crevices. Whereas when you move, when you allow that water to move, when you allow yourself to sweat, the inspiration also starts to flow. The intention becomes more clear. The direction also becomes more clear because you're already moving. Isn't that what is it, Albert Einstein said? An object in, or is it Isaac Newton? An object in motion stays in motion. Um, so yeah, it's like it's a tale as old as time. So if you're feeling stuck, move your body. That is a tip for Mars in Cancer. On the next day, Tuesday, Mercury conjunct Saturn, which is what you alluded to when we were talking about Venus. Sorry, Neptune conjunct the North Node. So Mercury and Saturn in Pisces. This feels like it kind of feels like Saturn's like, hey, can you just be accountable already? And Mercury is like, okay, but only if the energy is in resonance.
Hmm.
How does it feel for you?
We talked about strategy early on. This is a continuation. Planning is the first step to any major undertaking. But we can plan and plan and plan and plan. If we don't act, then it's just going to be stuck in our head. So thankfully, Mars is out of its retrograde. Um, this can also be a very serious time for you to get real with where you are with all your projects, where you are with all your ideations, your artwork, like which ones can you because with Saturn there's always this contracting energy. It removes what is not necessary, and since it's in Pisces, there's a lot of dissolving what's necessary. So I mean, you may be so inspired, but the reality is we can only do so much as a particular moment in time. And yes, time is a trip, time can be an illusion, but also we are human beings with certain capacities. So, how might we make space for the practical realities of this earthbound life? It just allows us to be rigid enough to have a structure for our magic, but loose enough for still allowing magic to flow. So, how might we find that balance and strategy? I feel like is such a planning and strategy and discernment are very practical tips for us to cultivate during this time. And again, it's a seed point, right? Every conjunction is a seed point.
So a lot of the shifts that we're going to be seeing later this year is from feminine to masculine signs, especially with the bigger planets. And so I love everything that you said, and it's a very feminine approach of planning and strategizing. It's not the type that you're like, okay, this is at this time to this time, and this is at this time to this time, and you can. If that's what helps you, then you can. But where we are right now, it makes sense to do it in a more feminine approach, in a way that you're feeling into the energetics, you're feeling into what feels good, you're allowing enough structure, but not so much structure that you're feeling stuck within your own capabilities. Like it's enough structure that you're saying, say, for example, 1 to 4 p.m. is painting time
Hmm.
example, right? And maybe you're not painting from 1 to 3 and you get the inspiration at 3, but you set aside that time for yourself. And that's the kind of structure and that we're talking about. I want to say, like, it's feminine, it's mutable, it's changeable, but it's structure nonetheless, rather than structure that's like staying here and I'm staying here forever. You know, that's a very different type of structure, a very different type of energy. Okay, Thea, the last thing that I want to talk to you about for this month is the new moon in Pisces happening at 9 degrees 40 minutes of Pisces, and it's happening at 8:44 a.m. it looks like. And I just saw a reel a little bit before we were recording this where I think it's Isa Kelly, and she was sharing about how every new moon that's happened um has been in 9 degrees, and it's in like not forever, but like the last few new moons that we've had, it's been in 9 degrees, and this one is also a 9 degrees. And she was sharing how interesting it is because this is a 9 year, which is a completion year. And the next time we see this is also going to be in the solar eclipse in Aries. There is also going to be um a 9 degree new moon. What do you think this means? First of all, these 9 degree new moons, and also how are you feeling into the energy of the Pisces new moon? So during this new moon, we will also have Saturn in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, and North Node in Pisces, right?
Yeah. Can I just say that Lilith is in Libra, right smack 9 degrees too?
Hmm.
Um, First off, don't know a lot about numerology, so I don't feel like super competent to talk about nine energy, but energetically, what I'm feeling in my womb is everything that you said. There's completion energy. It's the year of the snake. There's so many patterns and there's so many movements of the planets that just support that the energy for this year is about closing cycles, ending karmic stories, um, but I would like to reframe ending as reframing, reframe, because I mean, as long as we're alive, we don't really end anything. We evolve from it and we continue to grow from it. So there's always a new story to be had from it. And one of the energies that I'm feeling with this Mars in Cancer, as we learn how to reconcile the past instead of severing our ties from the past. I feel like when we're talking about feminine approach, this is a kinder um a kinder resolution to how we're meeting what's ending. And I'm feeling, because there's Pisces here, as we seed new dreams, as we envision what revolution means for us, how might we do it from still that loving and compassionate, reconciled lens instead of hate, judgment, trauma? I feel like if we want this new paradigm to be created from a more sustainable impact that's more just, that's more fair, that's more humane, we can't create it from this space where we came from. And so if we're coming from that negativity of severing, of um cutting ties or cutting cords, or from hate or from judgment, we're still carrying the energy of the past into the future. So, how might we reconcile? How might we accept? How might we embrace it with love so that whatever new seed we're planting here, especially with Lilith and Libra, there's a lot of, I feel like, raw emotions around relationships to so many things are coming up. A relationship with our mother wounds, our past, our future, and everything that we're needing to find harmony around. um yeah, love and compassion is really loud for me. And with nines can be tough because it's 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 the end, and there's a lot of grief around that, and I'm massaging my belly as I feel into this. So how might we soften in compassion for these grief portals that we are all being taught how to be doulas for? I feel like all of us are being taught how to be grief doulas. And to do that, there's a lot of softening. There's a lot of heart opening that needs to be done, because Pisces is the limit. This is the threshold, and this is a threshold moment where we are no longer, so we can't go back from where we were, but we're not yet where we want to be. So there's a lot of discomfort in the chaos, in the disillusion and the dissolving of all these structures that have kept us safe for so long. And if we're doing it from a scattered, disoriented, dysregulated, unsafe space, that's also going to be the same energies that we're going to carry forward. So, again, discernment. How can we discern? How can we clarify? How can we define? How can we in-source safety so that we create from this space? Was what's coming up.
I feel like Pisces season is a handbook for grief.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
want to say that all of us have been through grief in some way, shape, or form, whether we realize it or not, whether we've lost a physical human or not. Like, there are many different forms of grief, and we're all being initiated into grief. And it is an initiation, it is not a feeling. It is not a feeling that you're like, okay, I feel it now, and then I can let go of it. No, grief, we can never let go of grief ever, 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 ever again. It's an initiation, and from the first moment that we step into it, we're humbled by it again and again and again, and taught so many lessons. And I think the thing that's really complicated and really tough about grief is, um the mind always has questions, the ego always has questions, and the questions are usually, what if I did this, or what if this happened instead, or what if. There are always those what ifs, and the worst part is we'll never know, because like you said, we're here, we've already crossed that, we're here, we can't go back and change the what if. So we can kind of torture ourselves by thinking about all of the what ifs, or we can offer ourselves another way to look at it. We can offer ourselves, the point where, instead of looking back and being like, what if, now we're already alchemizing, now we're already doing something different. And I know it sounds easier than it actually is. Like, sometimes it takes sitting for 2 hours and crying and writing it out, or yelling, or processing it with someone that you love, or there's so many different ways to move through grief, whatever kind of grief it is, especially when it's grief for a version of ourselves. There's no grief quite as painful as the grief of a version of us that we've kind of put to rest and been like, okay, I know that this is what you wanted. I know this is who you are. I know this is what you dreamed of. And I'm so sorry, but it's time for us to part so that a new part of me can be born. Like the part of this book that I was telling you about earlier that I was reading talks about something which I think about every day, which is how every single freaking moment, a person is dying and a person is being born, and a person is dying and a person is being born. And it's nonstop. And just because we're not hearing about the people that are dying and we're not hearing about the people that are being born, it doesn't mean that it's not happening. And it's so humbling to put ourselves there and be like, wow, there are all these people going through this huge freaking dramatic portal of being humans and stopping being humans and being humans and stopping being humans, and we're surrounded by them, and here we are like engulfed in our story. And so I feel like this new moon is a great time like just sit with what is our relationship with grief currently. What kind of grief portal are we going through? What are we grieving even? Is there anything that we're grieving, or are we maybe celebrating? It's okay to be celebrating instead of grieving. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We can be doing both at the same time, right? The paradox, I think the paradox is very loud. It's starting to get very loud. It will continue to be very loud, especially with Pluto and Aquarius it's
Uranus.
and Uranus and Gemini. And I just can't wait to see what comes of it, because we can be like, oh my God, this is so scary. And there is so much happening and our hats are flying off. Or we can be like, I didn't wear a hat because I knew it was gonna fly off, so I'm here for the ride and my hands are up and I'm buckled in, but my hands are up, so let's see how it goes.
Oh
That's
my
the
gosh,
image.
Mary Poppins. I don't have a hat, but I have an umbrella. And if I open it, I'm just gonna fly with it. Like
And
secret.
you have a bag that can fit
I know,
every single tool you need.
but I'm probably gonna bring her Hermione's pouch just because it's. I have Mary Poppins umbrella, Hermione's pouch. Oh my god, and I have a wand.
Perfect. You're all set, girl. So another like practical but magical tip is for this day, what are your tools? Like play with it. Maybe write a poem about it. Yeah, I think it would be so cool if you wrote a poem about I have Mary Poppins hat, Hermione's pouch, and Harry's wand. What a cool poem. If you write it, please send it to me. I want to know what comes of it.
Oh, I will. I'll sit with it.
All right, Thea, thank you so much for being here for another month overview. If you have 3 words that you're looking forward to for February, what are they?
Oh gosh, softening, reconciliation, and
Mm. Ooh. Okay, for me, I have devotion, magic, and space.
space. I love that. I love it. I love it.
Yay. Okay, I haven't asked you this question in a while. So for this month, before we end, what makes you a artist?
Ooh, I love how you said when we began this, it's just making your life a living ceremony. And that really, I feel like, makes me an artist because everything I do is infused with so much heart, so much that my ethos is heart, hope, empowerment, action, respect, truth. So it's just infusing everything that I do and making life a living ceremony.
Thank you for sharing with us your living ceremony. Thank you for being here every month to talk about the astrology, and just thank you for being you and all the magic that you share with the world. I'm so grateful for you.
Ditto, 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 ditto.